Well, I started boxing when I was 14, and then I went through the amateurs, and I probably stopped competing in the amateurs when I was about 22, 23. I went travelling for a while, and then I came back from travelling, and I moved to London. And so I carried on boxing. I was working in London, carried on working in the gyms, training in the gyms, was training next to people like Julius Francis, and just really having a great time with boxing. But it was kind of my hobby. It was my thing. It was, I was working. I never thought I could make a living at it. I did my coaching badges, did my amateur coaching badges, did my professional coaching badges, more out of interest than anything else and just to help out in the gyms. And then I suppose in the late 90s, this white collar boxing thing started coming on quite strong, and started thinking, what's this? And different people started turning up in the gyms looking to get trained. I suppose that coincided with an explosion in interest in fitness, and a lot of the men's magazine articles and fitness magazine articles started saying, boxing is a great way to keep fit, it's great training. So again, more interest came up about it. And so now we're talking about 2004, and about 2004 I just moved back to this area, moved out of London, and a friend of mine who was running a pro gym in London said, I'm going to open up a white collar gym. I'm going to get these new premises around the corner from the old gym, I'm going to spruce it up, make it look really posh, and it's going to be a dedicated white collar boxing gym, the first sort of dedicated white collar boxing gym that has really been about, not sharing space with the pros, with the amateurs, dedicated white collar boxing gym. I thought, well, that's interesting. And then he said to me, would you mind coming up and helping me? I don't know much about the sales side and all that sort of stuff, and you could help with the coaching side. So I said, yeah, fine, I've got a couple of weeks free, I'll come up and help you for a couple of weeks. So I thought, well, I've found the perfect way for me to make a living. I enjoy it, I enjoy the business side of it, I enjoy the commercial aspect of it, and I just love the training, I love meeting people, I just love doing this for a living. But I don't want to commute to London, I don't want to move back to London. So I started looking around this area to see if there was a suitable premises. The difficulty for me was not so much finding somewhere where I thought the gym would work, but obviously you've got to get a change of use on the premises, change it to leisure use and everything else. And as soon as you mentioned boxing to people, everybody looked at me and was like, oh my God, it's going to be really rough. I don't want to know anything about that. Luckily, I happen to know the people that owned this yard in South Moreton. I'd previously rented a unit from them years ago. So I came into them, and I always remember the conversation with quite a grand old lady called Anne Keller, who I came in and she said, you could rent. I said, I want to rent this unit. She said, you could rent the unit, that's fine. What do you want to do? I said, I want to do boxing. And I started on my best sales pitch about what white collar boxing was and the type of people and blah, blah, blah. And I was looking at her and I was waiting for this, not round here. And she just looked at me and went, wouldn't that be marvellous? I thought, we're in. We've got an in. So I took the unit, converted it, put a couple of bags up, got the change of use permission, and then opened the doors. That was a bit of a nervous time because I'm thinking, well, there's no passing trade. You're on a farmyard. Nobody comes by here. It's a rural setting, as you can see. You can throw a brick without hitting anyone for miles around. I took an advert out in the local, advertiser, and all of a sudden people started to come in. And literally within a couple of weeks, my bookings for personal training were full up. And so it just went from strength to strength. To be honest, I had a really good start, and it's kept going ever since. We took one small unit, we expanded the next year to double the size of the unit, we expanded the next year to more than triple what we originally had. Then we moved over the road, we converted another building, then we built another purpose-built building to get where we are today, which is with 3 dedicated buildings and 4 separate gyms. The dojo, the boxing gym, the old school boxing gym we call it, the weights room, we've got the outdoor area, and then we've got what we call the fitness club. So that's got a boxing ring in the middle with more conventional fitness equipment around it, and sauna and changing and all the sort of things you'd expect in a general gym. So that's kind of how we got from being 14 and having an interest in boxing to having the first sort of this was the first dedicated white collar boxing gym outside London. As I said to you, we opened this facility up in 2006, January 2006. In 2007, we had our first show. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand. A lot of people just want to do the training, but a lot of people, when they do the training, they want to do sparring as well. And the next step is to have a white collar fight. This is where you've got to be very careful about how you're matching people, and you want to give them an experience. This is an experience of what it's like to step into a boxing ring in front of a crowd, all that adrenaline, all that sort of thing, and you want to give them that in a safe environment, as safe as you can possibly make it. There is a risk associated with boxing, of course. So we've been kind of specialising in that for the last 15 years. We've been having 2 shows a year. Now, we first started doing them in Wallingford, an old cinema. It was the old Regal cinema. Huge, wonderful space. It was like our York Hall. So we used to call these shows Rumble at the Regal. Now, as we expanded the club, eventually we thought, it'd make more sense to move the rumbles back to the club. We've got a big ring in our largest gym. In this side we have the bar and we have changing areas and all that sort of thing. So we transferred the rumbles to the boxing club. We carried on calling them the rumbles. So we've done 23, 24 of these shows now called the rumbles, and obviously we haven't done one since November last year. We had one planned for April. Obviously we scrapped that because of COVID. And we're still in this state, and me and you were talking about how we're going to get boxing going again. Now we're seeing the big boys go again. If you haven't got TV money or TV coverage, where does that leave you? Where does that leave the vast majority of pro shows, and obviously the whole of the white collar scene? So we thought, from talking to you in seconds, out how are we going to keep this going? We've got this amazing bit of technology in the YouTube camera that live streams what's going on in our ring, and that's been really popular. It's been great with the members, being able to look back on stuff they've done in their training sessions, and also it seems to be quite popular with people just looking and seeing what's going on. So we were thinking, well, we could hold a show within COVID regulations, and we could broadcast it live on YouTube. And how would that work? Well, it could be brilliant, because also you think about the worst thing for a fighter is selling tickets. And the problem is you sell tickets and all your mates go, yeah, I'll definitely come. And then it comes to the night, it's Saturday night, you've got to fork out 25 quid to get your ticket, you've got other things on, your missus doesn't want to go, whatever, and for whatever reason, people are like, I can't make it. So, but now we're saying, well, you don't have to go out. You can just tune in on YouTube. You can stay on your sofa, crack open a beer and watch this show. So, we're sort of, in a way it's an experimental situation, but we're kind of taking it to the next level. We are just like the top pro level, just like Eddie Hearn, just like Frank Warren. We're going to have a show behind closed doors with no audience, with just the medics and the officials there at ringside, and we're going to live stream that on YouTube. And we're still going to be relying on all the fighters to get out there and say to their mates, hey, tune in. There is no cost, that they can watch this anywhere in the world, whenever they want. We're also going to combine that with a live build-up. So, it's not just a case of turning, this is happening at 7:30, my mate's fighting on Saturday, I'll turn on the YouTube channel through the KO Cup then. There's going to be updates all the way through on the fighter's progress. And this is what makes it really interesting, I think. Again, this is something that you were only able previously to do. I think the first ever, sort of behind closed doors following the fighters round was when De La Hoya fought Mayweather. And they followed the fighters round to raise interest in the pay-per-view subscriptions for a few weeks before, and they made that a sort of reality TV show. And and since then it's developed in boxing to wider disseminate with the top pros. Well, we're going to do it with our top white collar guys. We're going to follow these guys around through their normal life, get updates from them every week on their training, and really build a sort of library that people can see of how this guy's developed. So when that guy steps in the ring, even if it's not their friend, they're going to be saying, you know what, I know that he had a sprained ankle 3 weeks ago. I know that he was finding really hard, training really hard 2 weeks ago. He was having a great time a week. Whatever it is, they've got an insight that they would never otherwise get. And I think that's going to build the interest in the show and make the show so much more enjoyable for people to watch. I would recommend going on YouTube, subscribing to the KO Cup, and then you will get the updates that will tell you what the fighters are doing, what your favourite fighters are doing. Get to know these guys before they fight. It's so much more interesting when the guys that step in the ring are real characters to you. You're engaged with them, you know their family history, you know about their brothers and sisters, you know about the argument they had last week, you know about the short niggling injury they don't want their opponent to know about. You know all that. And then they get in and it gets you engaged and it gets you, enjoying it. So enjoy the build-up. Subscribe to the KO Cup on YouTube. Get the build-up. Look at the fighters. You can also vote as well. That's how interactive this is. It's not just that you know these people. You can vote. You can vote for the People's Champion, the guy that's impressed you most in the build-up. You can vote for the best boxer of the night, who you thought gave the outstanding performance. You can vote for the best fight, the most engaging drama that you saw. And all these things are going to count towards the awards these fighters are going to get. So you're not just engaged in the sense that you know the fighters and you follow them through their journey. You're engaged in the sense that you're influential in their success. You get to vote and your vote counts. So it's an amazing interactive way of bringing people into the show.